Dear friends, welcome to this special review of the new movie, The Best Christmas Pageant Ever. We're going to do a crossover to the Bible story of Hagar, which I've just been studying for our weekly Torah portions, and just want to see how these two stories fit together. The Best Christmas Pageant Ever is an amazing movie that is just out, and it tells us the story of the herdmans, and they are, quote unquote, absolutely the worst kids in the history of the world. They do not fit as the poster children to fill the main roles of a Christmas play, an important Christmas play at that, in the town in the movie. However, that's exactly the place they find, and everyone is shocked, everyone is horrified, but it teaches us a beautiful lesson of the outsider, of the one who perhaps we can be very quick to judge, being someone who actually has a heart, someone who actually God wants to reach out to. As one of the main characters in the movie says, Jesus was actually born. Christmas was actually there for the purpose of people like the herdmans. And it's so easy for us as Christians, as believers, to be like the other characters in the story, the other people in the church who are horrified that such difficult and misbehaving kids are taking part in this important Christmas play. They lose the plot. They don't understand the bigger picture. And they get so caught up in everything looking beautiful and presentable, and they miss God's heart for someone who actually deep down is hurting. And that is only what we begin to discover as we go through the movie, that these are actually kids who are in great need and who the church should be reaching out to. So it's a powerful movie, a lot of fun. I'd give it 5 stars out of 5. I was hanging on to my seat, enjoying it. Lots of laughs, but also a few tears too, as the story comes to a head. So I'd recommend you to go and have a look at The Best Christmas Pageant Ever. Now let's do our crossover to the story of Hagar. The thing is, Hagar, she was the servant of Sarah, known as Sarai at the time, the wife of Abraham. Abraham had been promised a child, yet the years had gone by and Sarai was as barren as ever. No children were coming. And so they did what was socially acceptable in the time: just get the maidservant to bear the child for me, and the child will become my child. However, Hagar didn't quite fit the normal role. She began to despise Sarah as she became pregnant. She began to despise Sarah and despise her mistress, who was in charge. And Abraham just says to Sarah, "You do whatever you want." And Sarah then mistreats Hagar, and Hagar runs away. Now, in olden times, who is a slave anyway? Who cares? Really, the Bible shouldn't even mention the story of Hagar. It's a small blemish on the story of this amazing father of faith. Why bother? Why care about someone as small and insignificant as Hagar, the Egyptian maidservant? However, the Lord appears to her in the desert. The Lord appears to her, and she speaks of the Lord who sees her, the Lord who cares for her and understands her. Now, the name Hagar in Hebrew is very fascinating. One meaning of it is the stranger. The stranger. Now, the Bible speaks a lot about the stranger, and that is to mean the foreigner, someone who doesn't actually fit in a community or context, an immigrant, someone who by default then is vulnerable to being exploited, vulnerable to the elements. They are in a place far away from their home, their family, their friends. They speak a different language, have a different culture, maybe worship other gods. And how does one handle someone like that? And it's easy then to become like Sarai, who is judging Hagar for her behavior. Hagar is exalting herself over Sarai, and that's certainly not right. But Sarai lets loose on her. She lets loose on her and basically drives her away. Now, personally, when it comes to politics, I'm definitely on the conservative side of politics, and I am in general concerned with the wave of immigration we've had in our Western countries. However, there is an important balance here, that we need to have God's heart for those who have come to our shores, God's heart for the foreigner. And this commandment in the Bible to look after the foreigner, look after the stranger, is actually the most repeated commandment in the 5 books of Moses. the most repeated commandment. In other words, it is important. In other words, we need reminding of it because we tend to forget. We look after our own. We look after our own people. And a stranger, they are outsiders. And so it's so easy to blame the stranger, to push the stranger away, not to care so much about the stranger. After all, they're not one of us. They're not like us. But God commands his people again and again and again, look after the stranger. Maybe he's doing this because the seed was there through Sarai and Abraham of mistreating Hagar, the stranger. And that could easily be repeated in Israel's history. And so the Lord said to Abraham that your children, your descendants will be strangers in a land, ironically, in Egypt, the home country of Hagar. They are going to be strangers in the land of Hagar, just like Hagar has been a stranger right here in your household. And there they will serve them. In other words, the descendants of Abraham will become servants, just as Hagar was a servant in the household of Abraham. And they will be afflicted. And just as Hagar was afflicted, so the people of Israel were going to be afflicted. They're going to suffer, going to go through a hard time. Why? Why did all these things happen to them? Well, it says in Exodus 23 that you shall not oppress a stranger, for you know the heart of a stranger, because you are strangers in the land of Egypt. Perhaps one of the reasons Israel suffered in Egypt was that they were getting a heart of compassion for the stranger, the foreigner, and the outsider. Now, the Bible tells us about the city of Sodom and Gomorrah, who are famous for their sin and who God destroyed because of their sin. And yes, there are many different sins they're engaged in, but one particular one was in terms of looking after foreigners, looking after immigrants, people who came to their town. We've got a huge contrast between Lot, the cousin of Abraham, and Sodom. Lot was not perfect by any means, but when two angels showed up, appearing to be normal people, he welcomed them into his home. He protected them. He shielded them. Whereas the people of Sodom, they were out to exploit them and take advantage of them, even abuse them. Huge contrast in terms of how they looked after the stranger. And the question for us today is, what side are we on? Are we on Sodom's side or on Lot's side? Do we care for the stranger the way God does? Because God intervenes in the story of Abraham and Sarai and reveals himself to lowly Hagar. And he doesn't just do that once. He does it again a second time later when she is sent away. She is sent away with Ishmael, her son. And in that moment, in many ways, she is like a widow because she doesn't have a man anymore to look after her. Her son is like an orphan because he doesn't have his dad anymore. And her name is the stranger. And the Bible speaks a lot about the stranger, the widow, and the orphan. And right there in their need, as they run out of water, the angel of the Lord appears to them and shows them water, gives them a promise, and protects them and provides for them in that situation. So God has a heart for the stranger, the widow, and the orphan. The book of James says that pure religion is to look after the widow, to visit the poor. And the word visit here isn't just to say hi, to drop by for a coffee. The word to visit here literally means to attend to go to for the purpose of helping. So pure and undefiled religion is to go to someone like this who is in need, discover what their need is, and minister to their need, financially, emotionally, physically, whatever it is. And that is pure and undefiled religion in the sight of God. So I think the story of the best Christmas pageant ever really tells us of looking out for the needy and the downcast in our society. And Jesus said that there's coming a day when he'll return, and then the king will say to those on his right hand, Come, you blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. And just as Hagar was a stranger, and just as Hagar means a stranger, so the Lord himself is identifying himself as someone like Hagar. And will we demonstrate God's heart to someone like that? Will we demonstrate God's heart to the outsider, to the foreigner? Will we show his heart to these people? So that's my challenge for you as I reflect on the movie, The Best Christmas Pageant Ever. I hope you go and see the movie. I hope you will enjoy it too. Please leave your comments on this video. Visit our website as well. Like and share and comment. We'd like to hear your thoughts. God bless you. This is Enoch Lavender from Olive Tree Ministries. God bless.